Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Another Q&A. I haven't got any news for you about lockdown. As you well know, that things are changing day by day. Not quite sure what's happening. We are still planning to go to Greece, which looks like they've got a super low rate of infection. So I think Greece will be going ahead at the end of September. And the rest of the stuff is in England. So we're off to Gildenborough next week, Bobston the weekend after, and then maybe down to Cornwall for a couple of days. But before all that, we've got tonight's Q&A. So if you've got any questions you want to ask, then put them up. I'm going to be starting with a couple of questions I've been asked in the week. So the first question is, and it's quite specific to No Tanks, to us. Somebody was asking about IATA. They said, "Oh yeah, it's actually one of our guys. They've been training with us for a couple of years, and they've moved. And they said, look, I know, No Tanks is a little bit alternative, but I need the IATA qualifications, which is fine. And two things: one, quite a few people recognise No Tanks qualifications, but more than that, there's the IATA 2-star, for instance, is a 2-day course. It's really quite short. There's not a lot of in it. There's nothing complicated in it, and therefore what we do is we make sure all the theory for the IATA 2-star and the Apnea Academy and SSI is all covered in the 2 courses that we insist everybody do. So all the theory will be all the theory will be covered in the foundation course, no more course. The only thing is we don't. The No Tanks system doesn't. I don't understand the idea behind people being able to fail, in freediving. If you come along, if you put your face in water and see fish, how can you fail? So we don't have failure as a kind of option, really, I suppose. People come along, they learn, and if they improve, they've succeeded, and if they've had fun and they've enjoyed it and they've done it safely, then that's it, a win. So instead of saying to people, well, you've got to do this dive, you've got to do this many minute breath hold, else you fail, we don't do that. We don't put the pressure on people to complete the requirements then and there. It's this counterintuitive. So No Tanks try and get people who can do, say, 16 meters, not people who have done 16 meters. So instead of being able to just, well, I've done it once, I touched the tag, I got the tag, or I did it once. It's much better to have people who can do it comfortably and safely, time and time again. So that's kind of our philosophy on it. So and the No Tanks gradings, for an IATA 2-star, it requires, I think you only have to do 1 pool session, but I usually kind of I think of it as 2 pool sessions, and they're a minimum of 20 minutes. So for the minimum for IATA 2-star is 2 pool sessions, minimum of 20 minutes each, and 3 open water sessions, minimum of 20 minutes each, or something like that. Whereas No Tanks Blue Rash Guard takes a minimum of 100 sessions. That's 100 hours. So whereas it's you could do the IATA 2-star in under 2 hours in the pool, you'll need to be in the pool for over 100 hours with No Tanks. So it's a different world of comprehension, and that's what we're really interested in, people understanding, rather than just, I've done it, I've done a course, did 2-day course, I'm a freediver now. We want people to kind of understand the different parts and different sections of free diving. So anyway, that's beside the point. Okay. So that's just a kind of no tanks philosophical thing. We don't believe in kind of making people do requirements until they're ready. So you do the course, we know you're safe, and then you take as much time as you need, and then at some point in the future, it might be one dive later, it might be 100 dives later. If you've done the requirements and you want to get signed off, we get signed off. It's not a problem. Okay, so Laura asks, how much Sanex for a perfect scoosh? That's a good question. Well, it's a very good question. So scoosh, quite a lot of people say that you should use conditioner for scoosh. So to put your suit on, you put conditioner in. And I really don't believe in that. I don't like it at all, because conditioner never goes off, never dries. So you tend to find the suit will always move a little bit. We want it to stick to us, so it'll keep you warmer. And so we use a little bit of Sanex. Laura's talking about Sanex because it's the zero. It's got no additives in it. It's not so bad for the environment. And the answer is as little as possible, because it goes straight into the environment. Now you can put a suit on. If you've got loads of water, you can put a suit on with no scoosh. So the more water you have, the less Sanex you need. So if you're in the Red Sea, you don't use shampoo. Don't use it at all. You just put the suit on in the water and take it off with water. Obviously, don't pull it off. You roll it off with water, which is another kind of fallacy. People kind of doing what they call a running start, or pulling the beaver tail over their head. None of that. You roll it off with water, and you put it on with water. But if you're in England in the middle of winter, you can use, if you're using warm water, you haven't got unlimited amount of warm water, then you can use a little bit of shampoo. So as little as possible. And the other thing is that we always share scoosh. So you scoosh up your suit, put it on, scoosh up your suit, pass it on. And part of this is the fact that then only a tiny amount of shampoo is going into the environment. So two drops of Sanex, loads of water, 2 or 3 litres of water, of lake water, between 4 people is 2 drops of shampoo for 4 people. And if everybody scooshes up themselves, then it's a lot more stuff in the environment. And we use Sanex, or the cheapest shampoo you can use, because all it is sodium lauryl sulfate to make it kind of foam. But the ingredient we're looking for is the glycerine. So the cheapest shampoo hasn't got any additives or nastiness in it. It's just water, sodium lauryl sulfate, and glycerine, and that's it. Okay, so Dusan says, could you tell a little about mouthfeel and equalization under residual volume? Okay, so mouthfeel we don't do. It's dangerous. We don't teach it. It's dangerous. There's no need for it. It's like the wrong way round. Okay, so I've covered this a few times on this channel, but I might as well go through briefly again. So when you go down, the chest compresses due to the lungs kind of compressing due to the pressure, and at some point you can't equalize. So mouthfeel, and you can't equalize, and your ears hurt, so you stop. So mouthfeel circumnavigates this by taking air out of the lungs before they compress, so you can equalize. But the point is, in the first scenario you go down, your chest compresses to a point where your flexibility stops, and you can't equalize, so you don't go any further. As soon as you use mouthfeel, you're circumnavigating this, so you go beyond your flexibility of your chest. So if you use mouthfeel, you are getting a lung squeeze. Guaranteed. There is no way. You cannot use mouthfeel and not get a squeeze. Physics states, physiology is there. And I wrote about it. I published a book in 2010 saying, don't be tempted to use mouthfeel, because it's just a cheat. It's just circumnavigating it. So do not use mouthfeel. Unfortunately, it's really popular. Loads of people teaching it to people, and it's dangerous. It rips your lungs if you use mouthfeel. Much better to get to the point where your flexibility doesn't allow any more air to use. You can't get any more air, so you can't equalize, and then go away and stretch to get more flexibility, and then the chest can go further and you can go deeper, and you still get air up. The main thing though on an individual dive is relaxation. As soon as you tense up, your chest's not going to move, and you're not going to not going to be able to get any air to equalize. So if you relax, soften, allow the chest to move, then you're going to go. There are no pain receptors in the lungs, so you can't tell when you're if there's a micro tear in your lungs, but they will, because the whole point of mouthfeel is to circumnavigate the chest flexibility, which means you are getting a lung squeeze. So you can tell me a little bit about mouthfeel and equalization. Well, don't do it. It's dangerous. And when you talk about residual volume, again, this is a concept that we use, and we've been teaching this for 20 years. This concept, and I was working with Francois, working with mouthfeel 2004, something like that, and we wow, this is it. This is the answer to everything. Hang on a sec, what are we doing here? And we stopped pretty much in 2005. I will, however, teach mouthfeel. If you can equalize correctly down to 70 meters, then you can use mouthfeel, because then you've got the flexibility to get down to 70 meters unpacking every time you equalize. Unpack, so you're checking you've got flexibility, and equalize. Unpack, check you've got flexibility, and then equalize. So if you can do that down to 70 meters, then you can learn mouthfeel. But up to that point, you don't. It's a flexibility issue. Anyway, what was I saying? So we're working on these techniques. 2004. We realised 2005 that's not the answer. It's about flexibility, chest flexibility. And I've done. There's a video I've put up, 105 meters. It's on another one of these chats where there's a video, a GoPro looking down, and you can see my chest flexing in, and it's all about chest flexibility. Diaphragm flexibility has no bearing on how deep you can equalize. It's all about chest flexibility. So it's interesting when you say an equalization beyond residual volume, you change your residual volume by getting more flexible. So by doing bedtime stretches, which are again covered on some of the early videos that we did during lockdown, the lockdown videos, by doing bedtime stretches, you're going to increase the flexibility. By doing the equalization exercises with the ETT and the equalization training tool and the Bombilla, I can't see where my straw is, your residual volume in effect is getting less. So you're moving the residual volume, and so when you ask about equalization under residual volume, well, you kind of shouldn't go below residual volume. You move where your residual volume is by increasing flexibility. And effectively, if you can equalize down to 16 meters, which is why Ada originally picked 16 meters as a sign-off. If you can equalize down to 16 meters, you are using the correct equalization techniques. There are some refinements, whether you're using a lip lock, a T lock, or a K lock, but effectively you're still creating the pressure with the mouth and not the diaphragm. So therefore, there's no difference equalizing at 18 meters different to 68 meters. There are certain points which physics states things change, and you've got a good coach. They will coach you through these. So instead of just throwing you in, how deep can you go? Okay, tomorrow we go deeper. Okay, tomorrow we go deeper. That they will watch your progress, and when you get close to these certain depths, which are very specifically set by physics, not by humans. So, and I'm not going to say where they are, because that already creates not barriers, but kind of points complications which you don't need until you get there. So a good coach will know these absolute depths, and they will watch you as you come close to those depths and coach you through them, hold you back. So instead of just keep going, yeah, deeper, deeper. Oh, you didn't do it. I'll try again, try again, try again. As you come up close to these set depths, and there's 5 of them between 0 and 100 meters. And as you get close to them, a good coach will slow you down, make sure you're doing stuff. I know, let's try that again. Well, I made a depth. I want to go deeper. No, don't. Just let's see you do that again. Let's see you do that one again. Oh, and try this, try that. So they'll coach you through these and smooth through these points that could be sticking points, which if you look at statistics, you'll see these sticking points. That's because they haven't had good coaches that kind of slow them down before these sticking points, smooth them through the sticking points, and then let them go on to the next one. So so basically, if you can equalise, the techniques you need for 18 meters are the same techniques you need for 68 meters. But a good coach will help you kind of smooth out your progression. Okay, hope that answered your question. So basically, bedtime stretches, ETT and Bombilla, they're the 3 you want to do. And I've said it before a lot, but they're on the video so you can watch them. Kiri, what is the ideal kick to glide ratio? Is it depending on size, power, propulsion? Haha. Okay, that's a really good question. Okay, so there is no ideal kick to glide ratio. It depends on the person. So I will let's take no fins for sake of argument. Yeah. So let's kick to arms. Okay. So it's and people's breaststroke kick is usually quite bad. So I will always suggest when somebody's starting to do no fins, hey, why don't you do 3 kicks to 1 arms? Oh yeah, but my legs are rubbish. All right, you should do 4 kicks to 1 arm then. What? But I just said my kicks are really rubbish. Oh, really rubbish. Oh, you want 5 to 1 then? Because we're trying to develop the kick. So you make, we know the arms are good. So, you should be doing lots of legs only to improve the legs. Okay. And it's the same with the kick to glide ratio when you're monofining. Everybody's different. If your glide isn't particularly, if your power isn't there, then you're not going to get the glide. Okay. If your technique's a little bit sketchy, there's no point in putting a glide in there because you're going to waste a lot of your energy as you kind of glide off to the side. So it depends on where you are in your progression. Alan Barber, Guy Brew, and there's another guy a couple of years ago, high-level competitive freedivers, monofinners, and some of them had really good technique. They just carried on kicking, kick all the way. They didn't glide, and they were, world class competitive divers, and they didn't glide. Whereas if you watch big guy, New Zealand, I've forgotten his name, but you watch his videos, they are gorgeous, and he does like 1 kick, I think, to a glide. Because he's so powerful and his technique's so good, he doesn't need to correct. So he does 1 kick and glide. If his technique wasn't quite as good, his glide would go off. He'd have to do at least 1 more kick to correct before his power kick. Okay, so it depends on who you are and what your technique is. But in theory, I suppose what I'm going through is, in theory, if your technique is perfect, which obviously nobody's is. But if it was perfect, you'd do 1 to 1. So you'd be able to kick and then hold a really nice position, not move at all, and glide. Your weighting's perfect, and then the second one would come in. And bear in mind that the glides aren't truly glides; they're a pause. So the fin kind of tiny micro movements as it up. So it comes down. You don't just kick and then like kind of go stiff like a board. You need the momentum to allow the chest to move to bring the hips in. So it's a kick. Okay. So you're extending the pause in between 2 strokes rather than actually going into a glide. Unless you're going down, in which case you are literally going into a glide. But so I hope that answers your question. There's everybody's different, and you want to kind of play with it. If you're still on a training fin, not everybody moves off the training fin. Training fins are fine but if you're beginning and you're on a training fin, a glide not that important. Getting the technique is more important than putting a glide in. Okay, Darren, is there any advantage in the particular arm selection for initial pull down in free immersion, or is it down to personal preference, but keep it consistent? The first pull. So there is a lot in it. Yes, there's a lot of advantages, but it will depend on different things. So for me personally, the way I decided which hand I'm gonna or which hand I use when I'm doing obviously free immersion as a competitive discipline, as opposed to just pulling down a rope. Okay, so we're talking about free immersion as a competitive discipline. I will hold the rope with my left hand, with my lanyard that is using on my left leg. They're going up and hooking over my finger, so it's kind of keeping my left leg up a little bit. Okay, so I hang. Personally, I've got heavy legs, so I hang upright. That's just the way I hang. So that means this hand, my right hand, is free to kind of do my mask and get a bit of water on my hood or whatever I need to do. So clearly this is the hand that I'm going to put down super low, and it's always going to be below the lanyard, because the lanyard's on my hand and I'm hanging here. This hand goes down low, and that's going to be my first pull. So it's that's how I chose which hand I'm going to use. Now, that's kind of personal preference. I always have the lanyard on my left foot. I don't know why, just do, and therefore it's easier to kind of move this way with my left leg, left hand, left leg. It allows me a little bit of movement with my right leg. And also it allows me to wrap my right leg when I'm hanging, because my left leg's got a lanyard on. I wouldn't want to wrap my left leg. I can wrap my right leg so I can hold myself with no effort at all. My right leg's wrapped, and I'll go for the grab. I unwrap my legs, and away I go. If you're like Kiri, for instance, who does a beautiful back roll into the free immersion discipline, she's laying on her back with the rope kind of here. So this is the judges and the surface, etc., and the rope's going over her shoulder here, and she grabs here and rolls into the dive. That's because she floats. Her legs don't hang low. She holds up like this, and from there will be reasons which hand she's gonna kind of go over. But realistically, she could grab 1, 2, 3 before doing the first main pull. Yeah. Whereas in my technique, because I'm just looping my hand down, that first pull is going to be at least an arm and a half. So that's going to be my first pull. All right. So in Kiri's case, consistency doesn't really matter, because as she's going over, she can go 1, 2 before she's kind of left the surface. So she may pull the first big one with the left hand, might pull it with the right hand. Other people having the rope next to them and leaning over into it, they're going to be into the same situation as myself. Where's the lanyard, and which hand is holding the lanyard up if you're doing that. But realistically, apart from technically choosing which pull to have first and having the consistency that you know what you're going to do, it doesn't really make any difference. Yeah, it doesn't make any difference. Obviously, if you're using your hand to equalise, you're going to have a preference, and in the first 5 meters you want to get those equalisations like on pat. So for instance, if it was me, I don't use my hands to equalise, but I wouldn't want to equalise with my left hand really. So as I grab with my right hand, might grab my left hand, but and these are the kind of things, and you can practice this. You can practice this in a swimming pool. Put your suit on, put your whole kit and caboodle on, tie a rope to the bottom, and practice different entries. So you can decide. Try it with your landage on your left leg, do 10 of them. Try it with your landage on your right leg, do 10 of them. Try rolling this way 10 times. Try rolling that way 10 times. Try over the back 10 times. Don't just do it once. Do it once. You cannot learn from doing something once. You do it 10 times. So you try it once, and then you can puzzle it out 9 times. You can use the feedback from that first one 9 times over. And yeah, or go to Raisbury. Raisbury's fantastic because all the ropes are attached to the bottom, and so if you are serious about doing a competitive style freediving, there is no reason why you don't go on a Saturday to Raisbury and just do the start 20 times. Do it different ways, find out what it is, and even when you've picked your perfect way of doing it, try some others, mix it up, practice. So it is just absolutely on pat. And that's just what I did when I first started competing. I'd go and I'd practice just hanging on a rope, go for that one, go for that one, go for that one. So I knew exactly what it was that was doing. Another slight thing you may be thinking about is that I kind of quickly mentioned was equalization, and obviously your hands kind of get involved with that. But yeah, so that's it. There's no preference on the way down because you've got other things going on. Hopefully that answers your questions. Okay, well, wow, that was wow. I'm just looking at the time. Wow, it's 1:30, or for half an hour. It's 8 o'clock. So, yeah, thank you very much for those questions. Really good questions. If you want to follow any of them up, let us know in the comments, or when it goes up live, when it goes up on YouTube rather, or message them through. Thank you. Oh, I can't remember that guy's name. It'll come to me. I borrowed his shoes once. Yeah, perfect. Hopefully see you Wednesday. If you fancy coming along to the park, that's Kingston Gate of Richmond Park. It's going to be so warm on Wednesday. It's going to be a beautiful evening, and literally it'll be like this at the end of the session. The sun's starting to go down. It'll be beautiful. So come join us for a dry session in Richmond Park on Wednesday. If not, if you're in Brighton, tomorrow night. Well, tonight is Colchester. Obviously, if you're at Colchester, you shouldn't be online watching me. You should be down doing the session with Paul. But tomorrow night, Tuesday night at Brighton, and then Wednesday night with us in Richmond Park. Thank you very much, and we'll see you Wednesday. Ciao.